You guys see, you're all wrong. This weather here, you got it all mixed up. This is, I've just figured this out. I think you all just lie about Louisiana so nobody comes here. You just don't want anybody to come to Louisiana. You lie about the weather. You talk about it like it's hot and humid, and it's not. And then it actually has 4 seasons. You get cold weather, and I think it keeps everybody from coming here, except for me. Yeah, you're going to get snow. You're going to be Buffalo. They're getting like 70 inches. Yeah. They moved the game, I think I heard, from Buffalo to Detroit. All right, what do we got?
Update on Brian Thomas. How's he doing as he comes off that concussion?
Cleared the protocol, practiced yesterday and practiced today, so he'll play.
And then there's kind of been a lot made of the guys who aren't going to be participating in senior night, especially Jaden and that kind of thing. I mean, have you had discussions with those guys? Have they decided, any of them, particularly Jaden, if they're coming back next year already?
I've had discussions with a number of the guys. We have a pretty good understanding of who's doing what, but I wouldn't take anything from whether they're running out or not. I think that's much more of a personal preference as to whether they partake in the senior day ceremony, but we've got a pretty good understanding, and I think some guys will, over the next week or two, will start to, make public announcements as to what their intentions are.
You've talked a lot about the mentality of these true freshmen. What goes into the mentality they have to be able to, start this entire year, or how do you identify that initially?
Well, you don't necessarily know. I think that's probably the one unknown. You know about physical ability, but it's the ability to handle the rigors of college life, living on their own for the first time, making choices and decisions, as well as acclimating to an SEC environment, football wise. So I think it's trial. It's putting them in that situation. Preseason camp. Harold was not where he is today. From a maturity standpoint, and I think that's just development. So a lot of it is an unknown. Some move through that process quicker. Will Campbell was here in the spring. I think that mid-year enrollment really helps with that process of acclimatizing to all of those things, and that's why I'm a proponent of it, if that's in fact what the young man wants to do and the family feels good about it.
Hey, Coach. With you guys solidifying your trip to the SEC championship game, how important is it for you guys not to settle, to finish the season strong, and just how do you guys plan on doing that?
Yeah, so that's kind of a piece of who we are, right? We focus on a process more so than an outcome, and so it's been a consistent way of how we do things on a day-to-day basis. We focus much more on the little things, our habits, how we think, what we do on a day-to-day basis, much more than outcomes, championships, things of that nature. So it's just been kind of business as usual for us this week, and our focus has been strictly on our preparation and preparing for UAB.
Hey, Coach, right here. Just with Mason Taylor in particular, you guys have really found good ways to kind of use him in this offense, but not maybe feature him like maybe he was earlier this year. Has there been just kind of a reorganization of just how you guys can best utilize him in the passing game as to maybe from where he was earlier this year?
Yeah, I don't know that there's been any particular focus one way or the other. I mean, now that you've asked the question, I'd have to look at the drop-off in particular relative to the stats. I'm sure you have. Most of our receivers in the receiving core, they're all part of a comprehensive progression read, And so I don't know that we've used them any differently as much as, they're going to be part of, whether they're, being covered or not, right? And I mean, if his biggest play of the year was the 2-point play against Alabama, that's a pretty good deal right there. But I think, to answer your question, we haven't shied away from him in any way. I think it's just the luck of the draw relative to his progressions in the passing game.
Hi, Coach. How has the team developed throughout the season, and how has that led them to where they are now?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that when you look at where we were against Florida State, we had a lot of new players playing, transfers, freshmen, new quarterback, new system, and it's no excuse. My job is to prepare them and get them ready, and I didn't have them ready to the level that they needed to be for that game. But, they showed a fight, and so we knew that we had something after that game, that these guys had a special trait of resiliency. And so we worked hard on just building an identity within, and that was having a better focus from play to play, and that's grown throughout the year. So the development of this football team has been getting to know each other better, playing together, coming together as a team, because there were a lot of new players, a lot of new pieces to this team. So I think it was just the natural progression of a group of guys coming together over a period of time.
Ryan, you go from 11 a.m. kickoff one week to an 8 p.m. kickoff the next week. I assume when you started out at Grand Valley State, you guys played pretty much the same time all the time. Is it a lot different trying to prepare week to week now?
It's different
than it was then. And
yeah,
what's the biggest challenge?
I can tell you that I'm used to playing mostly night games, because those are the national televised games. But there is a big difference between an 11 a.m. and an 8 p.m. start. But I think our routine is pretty good, and you're playing at home, the comforts of playing at home, the routines. We're an hour or so off from what is a pretty common routine for us. So I don't feel too uncomfortable with this one. 11 a.m. is a little different, there's no doubt. 11 a.m. on the road, and the first cold weather game, yeah, that's a little different. And that was a difficult transition, which we got through.
Coach, go back onto development. Talk about your running backs. It seems like they weren't getting the production that you wanted earlier in the season, but how has Josh Williams and John Emery really kind of progressed over the course of the season?
Well, I think it starts with Josh. I mean, he comes in as probably the least heralded player, in the offensive backfield, and he's turned out to be, a captain for us on 3 different games, productive runner. I think he brings an energy to our group, and I think all of those traits, are what we've been looking for. So I think it's just it's been just giving a guy an opportunity. And so he's been presented with an opportunity, and here's a great example of somebody just taking his opportunity and running with it. The same can be said for Emery. He didn't have an opportunity, and look, he can blame himself for that, but he is now taking accountability for that, and now he's put himself in a position where he's helping our football team. So I look at it that both of them have seized the opportunity they've been given and have been able to help our football team because of it.
Hey, Coach. One of the more underrated storylines this year has been, at least lately, has been Joe Fouche's improvement over the last few weeks. What sort of growth have you sort of seen from him lately?
So let's keep in mind now, he didn't play in the first 4 weeks, and I think there was probably, maybe subconsciously wanting to make plays. put himself in some compromising situations in the sense that he was a little too aggressive. And I think he's really settled into playing his position, doing his job, being 1/11th of our defense, and it's shown itself. We've seen it as a staff. You've seen it, as somebody that's looking at our players, and it's helped our defense. I think having Major back there too has been very helpful. He's a great communicator, and because of that, it gets the guys in the right position.
Across college football in general this year, a lot of first-year head coaches have inherited veteran quarterbacks, or they've recruited them to come there. But some have been successful, and some have not been successful. So, what is it about Jaden Daniels, or how are you able to get him to transition to your system so quickly, to be in the position to take an SEC championship?
Well, it's been a process. I mean, I think we've seen good days, and we've seen days of growth. Look, I think first of all, you have to have a quarterback that has the tools necessary. He's got to be coachable. He's got to have the ability to fight through some adversity, which he has clearly. And again, a system that fits the quarterback in which you have. And I think what we've done a really good job is that it's not been about the X's and O's as much as fitting the offense around the quarterback as we've gotten to know him. So, look, I think I've said this a couple of times. When we went into camp or the spring, we installed the offense. And it wasn't installed for a particular quarterback. But this offensive system is now installed for Jaden Daniels. And as we've gone through the season, we've really tweaked it to be about Jaden Daniels. So I think that's what you're starting to see, that this really fits who he is as the quarterback. Good? All right, thank you.